Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Brandon Kane, and today we're going to be talking about the newest toxic card to be added to Marvel Snap, Annihilus. We're going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly with this card. We're also going to go over some synergies and some counters that you can use to protect yourself against this card as well. Lastly, we're going to finish up with a deck that I cooked up and see how it fared in Conquest. Let's jump right in. Annihilus is a 5-cost, 7-power card, which on reveal will send your cards with 0 or less power into your opponent's respective lanes. And if those cards aren't able to be moved, they're going to be destroyed. So what does that mean? Think of Annihilus like a super viper, that it does not matter which lane you put it into, but any card with 0 or less power on the board will be sent over to your opponent's side. And if your opponent's side is already clogged up, those cards will just be destroyed instead. Let's talk about the bad things about Annihilus and the junk deck, as they do go hand in hand. I played a lot of games with this card as well as against this card because of how popular it is, and the first thing I noticed is how telegraphed the Annihilus play is, meaning it's really easy to see coming. That's not good because if the opponent knows what you're trying to do, there's a higher chance of them being able to stop you so long as they have the right cards. This also means that it's harder to actually operate the deck efficiently, as most times the opponent's going to know what you're trying to do, so you still need to have to find a way to keep the opponent guessing and keeping them on their toes. To finish off with the ugly of this junk archetype, not necessarily Annihilus, is just how weak it is against Destroy. It doesn't matter how many things you're throwing over onto their side, as long as they're able to destroy it, it's going to be very hard to compete with the power output that Destroy can put out there. Getting into the good stuff about this card, Annihilus is a blast to play and definitely adds some much needed love to the junk archetype. At this point, it already feels like a staple to the junk archetype, having that huge power swing or just being able to send a mass amount of cards into your opponent's lanes. Not only that, it is essentially a 1-card counter to any type of junk deck. For example, I put Annihilus into my She-Not deck just as a counter because the junk archetype was so popular on the ladder and in Conquest that I had him there as a just in case, and you'd be surprised how many times I was able to put him on the last turn of a game and completely surprise my opponents, just sending back all of their junk back at them. Because this card is so toxic and can be maybe hot or cold for some people, we're definitely going to talk about some counters that you can use to protect yourself against this card. Annihilus's main goal is to send junk your way, to move cards from their side to your side of the table. So the first card that comes to mind to keep them there is Professor X. Annihilus is a 5-cost card, so is Professor X. So if you have priority on turn 5, or if you're able to get Professor X out early, you can just put them into a lane that already has negative power from your opponent, and they won't be able to move it onto your side or destroy the card either. Another good counter card to use against Annihilus is actually Armor. So if you see the Annihilus play getting set up, there's a lot of rocks, maybe a hood in one lane, put Armor there and try to fill the lane with low-cost cards or cards that you can actually move out of there, such as Jeff or Nightcrawler, so that way when they do play Annihilus, not only will the cards not move on over to your side, they also won't be destroyed, so your opponent will have to keep that negative power on their side. Another counter that works if you're really, really good at either soul reading your opponent, or if your opponent just has limited options of where to play Annihilus is obviously Cosmo. But again, Annihilus works across all lanes, so even if you play Cosmo in one lane early, they can just play Annihilus in a separate lane and have it still affect the entire board. So again, Cosmo isn't exactly a counter. I mean, it is, but it does require a lot of soul reading on your part and knowing where your opponent is going to play Annihilus. Lastly, if you just want to counter Annihilus altogether and the junk archetype, just play a Destroy deck, because whatever is going to be sent your way can just be taken out by Carnage or by Deathlock. There are just so many ways to take out that power and have it benefit you. Just playing a Destroy deck is going to generally counter Annihilus and the junk archetype. Annihilus was built for the junk archetype, with his sole purpose being to send low power cards to your opponent's side of the board. So naturally it's going to synergize with junk cards, meaning cards like the Hood, Green Goblin, Debris, Sentry, Black Widow. A lot of different cards are going to benefit from using Annihilus. And then we can get into some more higher end, a little more cheeky kind of combos where you're using cards like Hazmat to drop the power of your already low power cards, Man Thing, or even Yellow Jacket, so then you can send those cards with Annihilus after. We're going to get into a deck that I cooked up for Annihilus and see how it fared in Conquest. So this is the deck that I cooked up for Annihilus. I'm going to go through each card, how they synergize with each other, and then we'll jump right into Conquest. First card we have here is the Hood with 1 cost and -3 power, which on reveal adds a demon to your hand. This card is great with Viper and Annihilus, so I can send it over to the opponent's side, and just in case we have Carnage to clean it up. This card also adds a 1 cost 6 power demon to our hand, which adds a lot of much needed power to this archetype, so it's a win-win usually. The next card that I love to have in my clog decks is Titania at 1 cost and 5 power. Now, the mental gymnastics that have to be done to play this card can sometimes get frustrating, but when used in tandem with cards like Goblin, it's usually pretty easy to fill up your opponent's lane and also secure that lane for the rest of the game. Titania is definitely a card that gets better the more you play with her, kind of like Silk. Once you get used to the card and seeing how you can utilize her, I think it becomes a great asset, but it can be a little bit clunky at times if you don't want to play her too early, because then you have to worry about the mental gymnastics of how many times it's going to bounce back, what cards are going to be played there if the opponent is not going to play there. Either way, I really like playing Titania. Black Widow is a 2 cost 1 power card, which on reveal will add a Widow's Bite to your opponent's hand. And this Widow Bite will not let your opponent draw as long as it's in their hand, meaning they have to play it, it's -1 power, and it is clogging up one of the slots in their lanes. Next we have Carnage as our tech card, our just in case card. So if we don't pull Viper, if we don't pull Annihilus, we can still play cards like the Hood and Sentry and know that Carnage can destroy that negative power in that lane. Also, with, again, the junk archetype being pretty popular right now, Carnage is just a surefire way to get rid of any junk on your side and also have a huge power swing. Next we have Viper at 2 cost and 3 power, who is a staple of most junk decks. And her on reveal is she's going to send 1 card from that lane into the opponent's lane. So it is lane specific, unlike Annihilus, but it is a great 1-2 play with either the Hood on 1 and Viper on 2. You can also use her with Sentry on turn 6, where you drop Sentry in the center of the left lane, and then you send over that -10 power Void with Viper as well. And Viper also works great against Green Goblins or any type of junk your opponent's trying to send at you. Next we have Green Goblin, which is a classic 3 power, 3 cost, -3 power card, which on reveal will just switch sides. It's like sending a -3 power bomb to your opponent. So this is pretty self-explanatory, and it's great for junk / clogs because it's just going to take up a spot on your opponent's deck, and -3 is pretty significant. I like to use Cosmo in this deck as a tech card just to prevent, I guess, on-reveal decks, most importantly destroy decks, so they can't get rid of at least one lane's junk cards that I'm sending over there. Instead of Cosmo, I would also use Polaris, depending on the decks that I was seeing mostly at Conquest at that time. Polaris at 3 cost and 5 power is a pretty good power stat for that cost. And also you can move one of your opponent's cards, as long as it's a 1 or 2 cost card, to the location that you play Polaris. I usually like this because you have some more control over where your opponent's cards are, and you have a better opportunity of clogging one of their lanes sooner rather than later. But I did find Cosmo to be more effective because at this time there was a lot of destroy decks going on, and I wasn't really able to keep up, and Polaris wasn't really doing it in terms of clogging lanes. I still think Polaris is a good substitute for Cosmo, especially as time goes on and the destroy and the other junk archetypes get a little bit less popular. Next we have Debris, which is a 3 cost 3 power card, which on reveal will add a rock to each other location for both you and your opponent. So every lane except the one that she was played in will have a rock. This works really well with Viper and Annihilus, as you can send a bunch of rocks into your opponent's lanes and clog them up. Mobius is another tech card that I use. 3 cost 3 power with an ongoing ability that your card's cost cannot be increased and your opponent's card's cost cannot be decreased. The sole purpose I use this is to prevent destroy players from being able to use death, and in the event that you run into a Loki, you also have Mobius, so they can get the benefit of having their card's cost reduced. The next card in our deck is the Sentry at 4 cost and 10 power that can only be played into the center or left lane, and on reveal will create a -10 void in the rightmost lane. This works great with Viper because you can send over the void. It also works great with Annihilus to send over the void. And in case you don't pull those cards, you can always play him into Cosmo or play him in tandem with Carnage to get rid of that -10 power in the right lane as well. Valkyrie is a card that I personally love to play with my junk decks because not a lot of people use it, and it is very, very funny to surprise people by reducing a lot of the power of their cards to 3, or just making a lane flat out even with 12 and 12, so that way you can have a better opportunity to win your other lanes. One play that I personally love to run with Valkyrie, if you're able to maintain priority or if you're able to confirm one of your other lanes, on turn 6 you can always Valkyrie into Demon, and that way Valkyrie will turn all the other cards to 3 cost and your Demon will be there with 6, winning out that lane. This card is one that could be easily replaced if you want to play Hobgoblin, Professor X, or some other type of tech card, but me personally, I really do like playing Valkyrie because it catches people off guard a lot. Last but not least, we of course have Annihilus, which is the focus of today's video, so we're going to jump into some Conquest and see how the games go. Alright, so start off with Titania, Cosmo, Black Widow, all good things. Karmartage is awesome right now. Little magic here. So we still haven't seen 4 cards in their deck, which I don't know why you guys aren't able to see it, but let's put that up right there. They're going to spread out the negative power here. So we're going to try to clog them up right here in the right lane. We're going to Titania and Green Goblin. Actually, we're going to do it in the left lane. Because I think they think that we're going to play here into Nebula to try to keep her down. And that way they're clogged up there. On. We're gonna Cosmo here. Hopefully this isn't Hazmat. If it's Hazmat, it'll be tough. It could be maybe an Ironheart, give back positive power, which is fine because this left lane here is secured. I have Titania, who's blocking up the lane. I need to play 1 card, and it'll be whatever I'm playing, plus the 5 points from Titania. So this lane here is already a win. Oof, that's very tough for them. Not sure what they're trying to do here. To be completely honest. Oof, to be honest, I should have kept the Viper. So I could have that's fine. -3, or -1. They have -4 and 2. -4 plus 2 is going to be -2. -3, I'm going to have a +2 there. We'll win on that lane. But do we lose on points? It'd be tough, huh? I think this makes us win by points.
Opponent snapped.
I want to do math right now, but I believe in the heart of the cards. Using our sentry against us. Hey, believe in the heart of the cards.
Victory.
That was a good one. This is perfect. We got Hood. Worst case, we destroy it with Carnage. Best case, we can Annihilus since we got him in our hand. And the other option is Viper. Okay. That's not great. Because they have Nightcrawler, I don't think they're going to be playing any type of... I was about to say, I don't think they'd be playing any type of Destroy, and here they are playing Yondu. And they took out my Viper, so... we're just going to have to Annihilus when we do get him. Dazzler. Dazzler is a pretty good card to be playing right now because the meta is just junk. Oh, that's not great. We're gonna go ahead and send it right here with Annihilus. No thanks, bud. I'm expecting maybe like a blue Marvel here. I think this is still a win. Oh, pretty sure my headset just disconnected. Okay. That was a good one there.
Victory.
Ooh, Jean Grey can be good.
Snapped.
All right, we got an early snap. Early snap. We know they have Doc Ock, which could be bad for us, but it doesn't have to be. Let's prevent them from drawing anything here. So technically they should still not have much to play. I want to play Jean Grey, but if I don't play it right, I'll end up playing myself. So I want to be wary about that. This works out. A rogue. Oh no, I played myself. I called it. This is what I was worried about. Let's see. It could be a Mystique and something else. Dazzler. Sauron. It worked out.
Victory.
I almost played myself with the Jean Grey, but it worked out in the end. Well, that's it for today's video where we review Annihilus. Overall, Annihilus I think is a really fun card that really brings together the junk archetype very well. So if you do end up pulling them out of a spotlight cache, you know, go crazy, have a great time. If you didn't pull them out of a spotlight cache, I would say it's not worth spending your collector's tokens. Those are very valuable, and this isn't a make or break card. It's not going to be creating its own type of deck. It just really does add to the junk archetype. So if you really want to play the junk archetype and you're set on playing that type of deck, go for it. If not, I would just hold off for another card down the road. But overall, just let me know what you think. If you liked me leaving the full-length Conquest games in there, or if you'd prefer I did not leave those in there. Or just let me know anything you'd liked or didn't like about the video in general so I can improve. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.